Everybody, I'm Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. And this is my sweet baby Grinch. He is the narrator and director of these videos, so he thinks. So anyway, today our topic is going to be on forgiveness. We're going to talk about forgiveness, but we're going to talk about how forgiveness has no labels. You know, it's pretty expansive. The thing about labels is that they tend to have a container, and they tend to just be restricted. Labels are good for descriptions, but it's not good for a person because no one likes to be labeled. So labels really are divisive and cause separation and the lack of unity. True healing and forgiveness is a call for unity and call for compassion. So again, if you like that that's our topic today, please hit the like and subscribe button below. Before we get started, I have to remind you that I'm not a doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, a scientist, or any of those things, but I like those things, and sometimes I may share on those things, and what I get to learn about those things. I am a life coach, and I have a webpage called stacyforlife.com. On this webpage, I write a monthly blog, and I invite and encourage you to check that out. I just wrote one. It's called A Doll Upon a Shelf. And there's also a description of the services that I provide as a life coach, dealing with addiction, codependency, and grief, but not exclusively to those things, because underneath those things lies a desire for healing and healthy relationships, as well as development of spiritual and soul consciousness. It's all about going within, getting comfortable in your own skin, being able to remove those things on top of your soul that has, impeded your growth so that you can grow, that's made you sad. And we're going to talk about that today because the lack of forgiveness makes people sad. So where do we start? Do we start with the necessity for forgiveness? The necessity for forgiveness is that, people feel like, let me get my notes. So the necessity for forgiveness is when we feel deceived and betrayed and lost and afraid. Those things are what cause us to, need forgiveness. Because what happens is we feel that a person, place, or thing has done this to us. And in healing, we realize that this is done through us. And that's not saying that you take the blame. You just take the responsibility for your healing. Do you understand that? So that's what we're talking about today. But, when we look at forgiveness, what happens, and let me read these comments first, and I'll explain what happens as we're looking at the different levels and layers. There's 3 that I want to talk about today. The first one is that we say, I can never forgive this person. A lot of these tapes come from the people that we're surrounded with when we're growing up, as we may hear that from another person. So we develop that into our psyche, and we think, I can never forgive this person, or what have you. We don't know why it's come, but usually what we've learned about forgiveness is from at home, everything. And then the second layer is that we get spiritual, maybe, or we go to religion and we hear that forgiveness is what sets our soul free. So on an intellectual level, we accept some form of forgiveness. We think, okay, well, I'm supposed to forgive, so I forgive this person. And then we kind of get a false esteem, and I'm going to talk about that in the comments from what my life coach posted. And then the third form is the true, genuine, and authentic form that helps us to feel comfortable in our own skin, and it is about that non-judgment and the non-duality. So I want to thank you all. When I put out a post on Topic Tuesday for you all who, communicate with me and comment on these things and help me know where we're coming at, because I'm working with people on forgiveness. I have 2 people, that I'm working with on codependency right now that I sponsor, and, we're at the steps, the 8th, 9th step. We start getting into forgiveness, and who we put on our list, and that we need to make amends to, and making the amends. And oftentimes it's to ourselves, so we're going to go within that, too. But right now, let me read these comments off of Facebook. I want to thank Joan for her comment. She says, forgiveness is among the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. And it's true. And then Linda Efforts, my life coach and, my fairy goddess mother. She helped me, go from that lack of Cinderella and the lostness of Alice to where I can, also be a fairy goddess mother or a guide too. And it says, forgiveness. We are really forgiving from the heart, or are we forgiving and feeling self-righteous because we are better than the other person? See, that is the second level that I'm talking about, is that oftentimes people say, I forgive them, and they're not really being real. They're like doing it until, the next time they get hurt. So my comment back to Linda was, great point. Genuine forgiveness opens us up for unity and compassion from the heart. That's what she was talking about and what she taught me. The other, on an intellectual level, is just a surface, and whenever the occurrence appears again, we are still fractured because we didn't heal. So I got that from her and Michael Merdad. Resulting in that divided duality and false esteem. That's what she was talking about in that self-righteousness, that false esteem. So then Minnie Rodriguez says, she's my familia from another family, but anyway, she says, forgiveness is for oneself. Sometimes we give it without being asked, so our soul and body heal. I think that if you do not forgive, it's like taking poison and waiting for the other who offended you to die. And that is so freaking true. And that's the third level, is when we just know that we can forgive somebody, that we can forgive them with compassion, knowing that the non-forgiveness is not going to make us better than the other person or anything else, that we're truly living in our authenticity. So I really love all those comments. So thank you all who commented and participate with me and giving me topics and ideas. I appreciate you all. So when we look at that and we look at the different layers and how that it came, we are born innocent, we are born divine, and so any ideas that we get of being wronged come from, what we're seeing from our examples that we have, who we consider to be our gods, when we're first born, because we have no concept of all this other stuff. Our memory, from the previous life or what have you has not, it's gone. So we're open and receptive to that learning. And many of the statements that we've heard is, that we become unteachable, that spirituality is really about that kind of thing. So like I said, when we need to go through this forgiveness, we've decided that we're betrayed, usually in some sort of way. So when we talk about forgiving somebody, we're forgiving the person and not the act. Because when we go within and then forgive ourselves, see, a lot of times people just want to keep that outside, is that this person did this to me and this was wrong. But see, we can't forgive ourselves as long as we keep pointing out there. The problem is that at some point we chose this for our higher evolution. When we choose to empower ourselves, understanding that we chose this for our higher evolution, that we chose that person, and that we can grow from this. They're actually, if we want to label somebody a catalyst, that's a more positive way to label somebody who's come into our life for our growth. That if we were naive in some kind of way, we can accept our naivety and forgive ourselves for being naive. And that's what most of us do, right? I used to say that I innocently and blindly walk into shit. And what I later learned was that I'm not innocent, and I certainly am not blind. And that everything that I walked into that was not for my highest and best good was for my best growth, and for whatever reason. And usually, like I say, for me, it was those old tapes for the things that I saw learning growing up, and that it kind of goes into that blog that I was saying. So, when we look at that, we can't recognize our divinity if we're just giving somebody else all of this, and to recognize our own divinity is to realize that, we can forgive ourselves. Because when I do this forgiveness work with people, I ask them, did you put yourself on the list? And if you're in a 12-step program, you know that's not something I just coined. It's something that we all had to do, is we had to forgive ourselves for thinking that we were less than to choose this. Do you understand that? At some point, we thought we were less than when we chose this. Now, oftentimes people that can't forgive how that reflects outwards is that they end up not having any kind of relationships anymore. They just beg off of relationships and say, look, my picker is broke, or they say, you know, that they just attract the wrong kind of people. But see, once we heal, we start doing that healing work and working with people. Sometimes I have people tell me, I cried and I cried and I cried. This is the deal, is that when you're crying, they say that your eyes are the windows to the soul, which is obviously your tool for crying, you know. But when we do this, we get these clear eyes, you know, and people can tell when you've done this healing work when they look in your eyes, because the eyes truly are the window to the soul. When we don't do the healing work, our eyes are clouded, and we're attracting and communicating what it takes for us to grow. See, one person I was talking to last night, you know, she was saying that she didn't like that a lot of times when we're doing the healing work, the other person is titled like a villain role. And in unity, we don't want to deal with a villain role. We understand that these people are hurt too, and that they didn't learn that communication. So when I say forgive the person, but not what they did, forgive the person, but not what they did, that's what that means. And they may be continuing to do that. You know, they may not be willing to give that up. They may not be willing to grow. Hopefully you are willing to do the soul's work of your growth. And so that's not to say that you're a doormat for this person when we say to forgive this person. Oftentimes I think that that's misconstrued. So it's not to say that you're a doormat for this person. It's to say that you're growing. And maybe you're going to grow in a place that, you know, doesn't involve them. You know, it doesn't serve us to stay small when we're growing. You know, that's why people feel like they stay stuck and their soul doesn't desire to grow. And so they do many projections outside because of the fear of going within and having to make a different choice that's going to better align with their soul. You see? You see, there's an evolution to our lives, and sometimes the catalyst for us seeing our wounds, because we wouldn't see these wounds without this other person who may be considered the villain. So us seeing our wounds, you know, we have to care to grow. So it's about our growth. If we look at our wounds and heal and do the work, it can be hard to deal with the person who is not willing to evolve. Whether it be the partner, whether it be your work, whether it be your family or your friends, you know. So this is where esteem comes in, actually. This is where we get our esteem, because once we do the healing work here and we learn to be true to ourselves, and a few videos ago I talked about us being true to ourselves. So when we do that healing work, we get a sense of esteem. You know, because there's this light that comes on, and the light doesn't just come on in our heads, it shines through our eyes, and we get this esteem, and we don't want our eyes to be blinded again. We don't want that light to go out, you know, with that esteem. It's because having a good esteem feels good, you know, so we may have to make another choice. But the cool thing is that when we do the healing work, we have compassion for the person, even though we might have to make another choice. We don't try to make them conform to who we thought that they were to begin with, who we've tried to make them conform to, who we wanted them to be or needed them to be, because we realize that we're who we need to be when we have a true esteem. When we do that healing work and we can really heal and feel, why did I choose this relationship? What is it in me that I needed to repair so that this pain doesn't keep showing up everywhere? You know, so that is where we get our empowerment, and that's where we get our esteem. So when we do that and we do the healing work, we are able to move forward without sticking a label on somebody, you know, so that we can esteem ourselves like that. Because in the second level, we esteem ourselves like that, right? The labels seem to help. The first level, the labels definitely seem to help. The second layer, the labels are dissipating some because we've decided to be forgiving until we get pissed off again. See, the first level, we stay pissed off and we stay angry. The second level, we've decided, I'm going to be spiritual. I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to take the high road. But see, that's just the intellectual part. When we get down in the mud and the ruts and we accept responsibility and we say, this hurts. Why do I keep hurting like this? Sometimes and we work on tapping, in the sessions. This hurts. Why do I keep hurting like this? I don't know why I keep doing this, but I don't like the way it feels when I do this. I accept myself and I accept that I chose this, but I don't like the way that it feels when I do this. I wish I would choose to do something else. I know that I have it in me to choose. Grinch does not like tapping. I know that I have it in me to choose to do something else. I will choose to do something else. What do I need to do something else? I'll do this to do something else, and it's what you would decide. So we go through tapping sometimes. Sometimes we just go through prayer and meditation. Sometimes we go through crying. Sometimes we do whatever it takes to get that healing, because we don't want to keep doing this, because we've learned, that usually by the time we get to the healing part, that this is something that's recurring. So it's something that only we can heal. We realize that nothing outside of us is going to heal ourselves. And we want to be united. We don't want to be separated and divided from other people, because really in our soul of souls, we know that that does not feel good. It doesn't, and so when we can be expansive and walk, and have our shoulders back and chassé with our hips, like those people that we see that walk like that. Oftentimes in that judgment and labeling, people look at them walking like this. This is when people are unhappy with themselves when they're talking about how people are walking, because, when we do the healing work, we're like, oh, look at that. We like when we see people walk like that. We quit putting the labels. We quit putting the judgments on people when we really do the healing work. We understand that it doesn't serve us. So there are a lot of people who do and lead good healing programs. However, if you're feeling like you have to be divided and that you're feeling like somebody's less than you because they've been a catalyst for your growth, then that's not really healing in essence. It's just a level and a layer to your healing, which is good. It's better than, if you don't heal at all, if you don't forgive, then like Minnie said, it's like taking that poison for yourself, and it does. I believe it does come out in our body, that in whatever way it's going to show up in a sickness or ailment or pain. And so I think that that's one way. The second level is that, we get that superficial, so we know what needs to be done, but yet it happens again, And that third level is like, what can I learn from this? If we do by chance pick that again. But like I say, once we start doing that soul work and you start doing the work to get that shit off your soul, crying those tears and doing that work, your eyes are the window to the soul. And that's how most of us feel seen, loved, and heard. So when we know that God, the universe, whoever you perceive that to be, is inside of ourself, we are no longer searching outside of ourselves for this healing and then getting pissed off at other people in step number 1 to where we didn't heal and we can't forgive them. Or that we get to step number 2 and we forgive them, but it happens again. And then we get to step number 3 is when we know that God is inside, or the universe is inside of ourselves, and that we're no longer searching outside of ourselves. See, because comparison, when we're doing this other stuff and we're comparing, like they did this and I would never do that, and comparison steals the soul, and that's judgment. See, what we go to in healing is observation. When you see people giving testimony, it's from what they observe. They don't want feeling from what you observe. So that's within, and that's with non-attachment. So when we can observe, we've done the healing work. And not have an attachment to any thoughts about if somebody's walking a certain way or if somebody's doing a certain thing, and then not have to judge them for that. That's where healing is. So thank you for your patience with my Grinch's narration, and thank you, for every week that I get to sit with you, because your time is valuable, and I appreciate that you follow me on these journeys. In this healing work for me, it's not just sitting. I am an online life coach, but sometimes I'm also physical. I work with people through transitions, so sometimes when people are going through changes in their lives and they're needing that forgiveness of themselves and others, maybe, because grief is what is forgiveness is a large part of grief. you know, those feelings that we feel. You know, we get to these thoughts, like I said in the beginning when I was talking about my fairy goddess mother, of lack. You know, when we do the healing work, there's not that lack feeling anymore. You know, we don't feel like something's been taken away from us. You know, oftentimes in grief, it's a process. It's a transformation. I don't know that, you know, you get over it or anything, but you will transform if you're willing to grow. So, but the willingness to grow is that forgiveness. It's either a forgiving the person or the thing that you feel like you've lost, and it's about forgiving yourself, because somewhere inside you're feeling betrayed. And if we feel betrayed, you know, when we get to this other process of the soul and knowing that, you know, there's part of us involved in this, you know, and that it happened to us. Well, how does it happen to us? So when we go through these processes, like I say, it comes in different layers. You didn't lose your lack of ability to forgive overnight. And sometimes it comes in layers and tiers to gain your ability, your ability to forgive, to expand, you know, and grow. It's not something you can just intellectualize. So I hope that this has been helpful. And again, I do appreciate and value your time. I'm sorry if I seem scattered. It's, you know, like I said, I work in different places, and yeah, so I adapt. And that's what 2021 is about, right? This is adjusting and adapting and going within and finding what's comfortable and doing it anyway, you know, to feel comfortable in our own skin. So I look forward to talking to you again next week, and I hope that you'll have a wonderful weekend and that you're able to look at some forgiveness in your life. And if you need any help doing that work, I suggest that you could seek my fairy goddess mother out in Fort Worth, Texas, or you can seek me out if you want an online, you know, life coach if you're not going out yet, you know, or what have you. Okay? Or find another life coach. But just do that healing work, because we all raise the vibe of this universe. And that's what I intend to do. And I don't think that we're going to raise the vibe by that duality and division. So let's be united and not divided, okay? All right. I wish you much peace. And I only have one arm again for love, because I'm still holding my device. And many blessings from above or below, whatever's right within your soul. Thank you so much. Bye.